Hey, Michelle, how you doing today?
I'm good, Lindsay. How are you?
Michelle, are you someone who finishes people's sentences?
Um, I try not to do it that much, but sometimes, it happens. I have to be honest. Guys, we're going to be talking about this today. Lindsay, what about you?
I am sometimes someone who does that a little bit too much and I need to stop. But guys, we're going to talk about this today. This is a way to build connection, but only if you do it in the right way.
That's right, Lindsay. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a fun one. So, guys, listen up and make sure that you hit subscribe on YouTube so you never miss anything. So, enjoy the episode.
All right. Hey, Michelle, how's it going today?
Good. Hi, Lindsay. Do you finish other people's
Food?
no, sentences?
Oh, yes, I do both.
Okay, guys, so how are you doing? Lindsay and we are going to talk about something super interesting today. Lindsay, we've spoken a little bit about finishing other people's sentences. So today we are going to talk about our thoughts on it and how to do it and why to do it or not to do it. So Lindsay, should we get into it? What do you think about finishing other people's sentences? Yes? No? Sometimes?
Oh gosh, I have to say I'm guilty of I do this all the time. And I catch myself and I'm like, oh, don't do that. Like some people really get annoyed by that. And I may not know what they want to say. Just give them space and time. Don't be so rushed all the time. So I think generally avoid it. What do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I think it's probably a good idea to avoid, but it is, there's something to be said about it being a natural thing that people do. Does it bother you if someone does it to you?
You know what? I don't know if people do it to me. I don't really notice whether they do or not. Now I'm going to pay attention and see if they do. I think maybe, but I feel like when I always do it and I think, oh, I'm doing that again. But it's because it really does come back to connection. It comes back to my desire to connect because I do feel like I want them to know that I know what they're thinking.
So that's a good point. Because I was going to ask you, like, what are some good reasons to do it? Like, what are some of the positives? So, I agree with you. Like, it kind of shows this connection. Like, I think people who do this, they do it with good intentions. Like,
totally.
Oh, you want to show, like, oh, that we connect, that, like, I'm on the same wavelength as you. I can read your mind, right?
Yeah, because if you think about it, the opposite of connection, like if you're trying to create drama or you're trying to show that you're upset, is a long silence, kind of a long pause.
Right.
So this is the opposite of that in terms of conversation dynamics. So it's well-intentioned for sure, Michelle. And it also shows that you're interested, you're engaged, you're listening.
You're listening very closely, right? Because if you're finishing the sentence, so in that way, that's positive. And
that's true.
I think it shows that you're excited to talk about the topic as well. Like you can't help but jump in, right? It's kind of like, when we talk about interrupting in general, but this is like a very specific type of interruption.
And it doesn't mean it's kind of a non-traditional interruption. It doesn't mean the person has to stop talking, right? That's the thing. It's kind of just an add-on. You just push the message forward in a way, right? Because that person can keep talking. Right. It's not like you're interrupting and then taking over the conversation. So that's why it's a little different.
Right. That's true. It's different than like, oh, I'm going to jump in and tell you my story.
Right. No one likes that person.
Right. It's just like, okay, keep going, but I just want to show you, like, I'm really excited about it.
Exactly. Or it shows that, you know that person well. Maybe you know what they're likely to say because you identify with them again. Yeah. So
now that we're talking about this, I feel like I'm super self-conscious of like interrupting you in this conversation or like doing that. You know what I mean? Now we're like focusing on it.
I don't know if we really do it on the podcast. I don't know. We'll have to ask our listeners if we do it, right? We don't know. We're not aware of how we speak entirely until we get emails from our listeners and they say, oh, Michelle says this all the time. Or
So. I know, it's so funny. So, let's do an example of interrupting with finishing a sentence.
Oh man, Michelle, I went to this great brewery over the weekend. I just love
craft beer.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. You know so much about it.
Yeah. So, all right, let's try another one.
All right, let's do another one. Oh, Lindsay, I could really go for a cold
bubble tea.
Yeah, that sounds perfect right now.
Yeah. So I know that that's something you would say. I would never say that, but you say, I know. So I'm showing you that I know you by saying that. Right.
And maybe
Yeah.
we're walking by a bubble tea store, or maybe it's just really hot outside and we're walking together and there's one nearby or something like that. Let's do one more.
Okay.
Oh, Lindsay, I love living in New York, but it can be so,
Expensive.
yeah, that and crowded.
Yeah, so it's really, commiserating, coming together, complaining
Yeah.
together. I mean, maybe it's not that bad to do this. Maybe I'll revise my answer. It is a way to build connection. So that's why we're teaching our listeners this today.
Right. I mean, there are positives and negatives. I think you just don't want to get known for being the person who does it all the time. So, I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, with the craft beer example, I know you like craft beer and it seems like that's what you were going to say, right? And the bubble
Yeah.
tea, you know me. Now, in the third example, I said I love living in New York, but it can be so, and you said expensive.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, that and crowded. So maybe I was
Mm.
going to say crowded, right?
Yeah, that's where it could get a little annoying because I
Right.
assumed I knew where you were going, but you're going in a different direction. Maybe we were in
Right.
Union Square and there were people everywhere and we were annoyed, but I was missing the point, right?
Right. So, I
Um,
mean, so you were wrong, but I'm just it's like this in this way it's not a big deal, I don't think. I mean, so
yeah.
if you are wrong, I mean, you can't just say, "Oh, sorry," like if it seems necessary or,
Or
like the person who was saying the sentence, they might just kind of take control like there and I said, "Yes, that and crowded." So like I
right.
acknowledged it and
Yeah.
then I kind of moved on. So you have to see
Mhm.
what happens. So what happens.
Yeah.
Let's do another example if somebody is wrong.
Okay. I have so much to do before my
Meeting with John, yeah.
No, I was gonna say I have so much to do before my presentation tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that. Sorry.
Yeah, and it does sound silly if you're wrong, right? It's
Yeah, it's.
like,
I mean, I have to call out my husband right now because he
uh-oh,
can't hear me.
Dan's in
But yeah, he
trouble.
does he does this a lot, and I get I'm like
Mm.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it does because as a speaker, it jars you for a second.
Right.
You're
Right.
like in your mode and you're going, and then I mean, this is just for regular interrupting as well. But like for me, like I'm like, what was I saying? So
Yeah, because you start to think, What are they talking about? Why'd they say that?" And then you
right.
lose your sense. Michelle, this feels like something that, could have been a Seinfeld episode or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't there what was that episode, like, The Close
The
Talker
close
or
talk, there's a
something?
close talker, there's a low talker, there's
They
all
do,
sorts of
yeah, they do a lot of episodes on these strange phenomenon between
they
people.
they and there's all sorts of things about language on that show. It's actually really
It's
interesting from a
yeah.
linguistic perspective sometimes. I just started watching Seinfeld again at night because I'm not into any show right now. So now I just DVR Seinfeld. I'm like,
You need
why not
something.
just relax with a cold episode of Seinfeld?
It's aging well. It's aging better than Friends. I do have to say. You probably disagree with that, but I won't
I feel
finish your
like we could do a
sentence.
whole episode on Seinfeld. I love them both.
Yeah.
I love them both.
Yeah. All right. Fair
So
enough. Fair enough. We'll leave it at that.
but anyway, I mean, how do you do this? How, if you pop in
Yeah.
at the very end, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
your tone of voice, you really only put in a word or a short phrase, right? So if you're going to interrupt, right? So,
Yes.
and
Yes.
again, it can be avoided or it should be avoided if like you're doing it too often or you're jarring someone, make them lose their train of thought,
Yep.
or like let's say somebody is talking about something they're really passionate about, they're venting or they have a really strong opinion and they want to express themselves. Um
Yeah, you got to be
that's
careful.
maybe a
Mhm.
time when you don't want to do it, when somebody's just in that real moment, right?
Totally. Let them have their space. There really is, and our listeners know this, in different cultures around the world, they do this so much better than we do in the US, giving people
Mm.
space and time to talk,
Yeah. Yeah.
listening, just listening.
Mhm.
Give people the
Mhm.
time to vent. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So let's do an example of when it's not so good.
Okay. All right. I'm just starting to feel pretty frustrated with my
Living situation. Yeah, it's tough, Lindsay.
no, with my car.
Oh, sorry. Right.
Again,
So,
you sounded ridiculous because it was
right.
wrong. It,
You were telling me about being frustrated with something, and it's like almost in that way. I feel like it's on my end, it's almost saying like, yeah, your living situation, like, I know, like you talk about that all the time. So it's almost like belittling other
Mm.
things you're upset about or you have shared with me before. Do you
Or
know what
even,
I mean?
or also belittling that thing or the living
Yeah.
situation, what I had been talking about before, because you're kind of making fun of it. Like, I know this is what you're going to talk about again.
That's exactly
So
what I meant. Yes,
yeah, that's what
exactly.
you meant. Okay.
Yeah. No. I totally agree. Right. It's like, yeah, we know. Like,
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
um, or
Um,
another time you want to avoid it, I think, is when we said, when you've been doing it pretty frequently already. So let's do an
yes.
example of that.
Okay. Here we go.
Oh, Lindsay, I'm so excited for the new episode of.
Conan,
Yes, I just think he's so.
funny,
Yeah, he's also really.
smart.
Yeah.
That was weird. That I don't think would happen as much, right? That like back and forth. But that's so funny. So you didn't really feel heard there, right? You were just like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I didn't feel hurt. I think that that's a really good way to put it, right? So you said Conan, and at first I was like, yeah, that's what I was gonna say, and then you said it, and then I'm like, yeah, and it's just happened too much. So that's something that you will want to avoid.
I think so. Let
Um,
people be themselves. Like let people have their own opinions and just be themselves.
right, exactly. So let's talk about. We're talking about all these, ways not like why you wouldn't do it, right? Because
Yes.
we want to think about like these instances. Sometimes it's hard if I just said like a bunch of examples, it can be hard to pick them out. So we're talking about these specific scenarios really to pay attention to. So
Yes.
this one is kind of like the other one. So when you're doing it to show someone, show that someone told you something already. So that could be
Ah,
seen as rude. This is
I
a little
see.
bit what we were talking about.
Okay. Yeah. So, all right, here we go. So yesterday I saw the cutest.
Puppy. Yeah, I know. You told me.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Like that makes it seem like I'm telling stories over and over again and I'm
Yeah.
forgetting that I'm telling them, and that's just not a good thing to feel.
And actually, we should do a follow up on if someone has told you something already. Like,
Yeah.
do you say
Ooh,
something?
great.
I mean, do you just continue listening all the time? Like in this situation, is it okay to say someone told you something? Maybe we can talk about that
Yeah,
sometime.
that could be another episode. I think our listeners would appreciate that for sure, because there are people who tell the same story over and over again. Maybe they don't remember, or they do. They just think the story is so great. So they want to tell it, and we have to say something. So we don't have to keep listening.
Or if you are the one telling the story and you're not sure if you told the story already. Like
Yes.
what can you kind of say, like, oh, like for example, just like when you say, oh, stop me if I told you this before,
Right.
like,
These are
do you ever
great.
say that?
Oh, fantastic episode idea, Michelle. All right. We'll get to that,
Okay, I'm gonna
guys.
save it. I'm
Just
saving it.
tune in. Stay tuned into All Ears English. Make sure you are following the episode, the show, guys, and you will get that episode. Okay.
Exactly. All
What
right,
else, Michelle?
one more no.
All right. Here we go. All right.
This is when someone is telling a story that you don't really know the specifics of. Okay.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right.
Okay.
So I got on
Bus?
the subway and I saw this.
Man?
No, rat. Like you were just like guessing out of nowhere. Like
So annoying. I just want to like walk away from you and not talk to you anymore. If you're going to speak that way, it's just annoying. Just let me
it's
talk.
true. It's true. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Lindsay. Yeah. So much to discuss here. I mean, any final thoughts on this before we get into the takeaway?
So, guys, this is a tool for connection if and only if it's done correctly. I mean, that's the key, right? I think that is the takeaway, Michelle. That's the takeaway for today. You can finish people's sentences in a way that does build connection. Don't overdo it. Don't overuse this tool, but just understand when it's going to annoy people and understand people's personalities. Some people just don't like that at all. Others don't
Right.
mind it. Right, Michelle?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I agree. There's an art to doing this correctly, and I agree with everything you said. It's
Yeah.
understandable. I think most people are well intentioned when they do it,